out of the game.
Hi, I'm Kelsa Dickey, the CEO of the Financial Coach Academy and my financial coaching business, Fiscal Fitness Phoenix. My coaching journey began more than a decade ago with me helping people for free from my dining room table. What was once a little business of mine has grown into a 7-figure company that employs a team of people. My goal is simple, to help you fall more and more in love with financial coaching. I believe financial coaching is the most rewarding way to make a living. If you are an aspiring financial coach or have been coaching for years, I'm here to help you create a business you love that gets your clients massive results. Let's get to it. All right, financial coach. The episode you've been waiting for, episode 12, How to Niche Down. We started by talking about niching down as one of the best ways to get new clients, right? Then we talked about niching down 101, sort of an overview. Then in the last episode, if you recall, we talked about the fears around niching down, some of the hesitations, but also the beautiful changes and transformation that can happen when you do it. And in this episode, grab a pen and paper because you're going to be taking lots of notes. I'm actually going to give you a step-by-step process for niching down. We're going to cover how to niche down, the process of doing so, the questions you can ask yourself, and what you are likely to experience as you go down this journey of niching down. Like I said, grab a pen and paper. You're going to want to write some stuff down. I also recommend bookmarking or saving this episode because niching down is a process. It doesn't just happen overnight. You're going to want to come back to this episode over time and continue leaning in to each of these questions and gaining clarity with each and every pass through that you do. The first thing that I want you to know when it comes to the process of niching down is that it takes time. It isn't an exercise that you do and you get it done and then it's perfect and you never have to do it again. And I know that can be really hard for some of us financial coaches. We want things to be perfect. We want things to feel buttoned up or complete. We like closure and completion on things, right? Sometimes I remind myself that I need to embrace a good enough attitude, this idea that it's good enough for now and I'll continue to refine it or tweak it or perfect it over time. That is one way that I've gotten over my perfectionism, if you will. And that is more true for niching down than just about anything else. We give this expectation in the Financial Coach Academy that you really want to shoot for about 60% accuracy when you are first starting out. So your first attempt to niche down, I know you want it to be 100% right. And here I am telling you that it's going to be more like a 60% grade, okay? It might not feel complete. It might not feel perfect, but you're on the right track. If you were to ask yourself, is this like a 6 out of 10? That's probably about good enough, okay? It's about as good as you can get it on your first pass through. And then over time and through experience, you will gain more awareness and you'll continue to refine it. A very normal journey with niching down, I want to talk about this for just a second. I touched on this very briefly in a previous episode, is this idea that it oftentimes involves both expansion of your niche and then contraction, and that happens sort of on repeat. It is not linear and it's not always pretty. For example, you may help individuals with a very specific problem for a while, and then you decide, I want to help small business owners. Again, very wide expansion, right? Like we just went from individuals to all business owners. I now want to do business financial coaching, right? So that is a massive expanse. Then you meet with a few business owners and you realize, I actually prefer service-based businesses over product-based businesses. So after you expanded your niche to all business owners, now you're going to refine it or contract it a little bit to service-based business owners. And then you're helping a lot of service-based business owners, and you start to realize all in the same stage of business. The ones that you really love working with the most, you can help all service-based businesses, but the ones that you really enjoy the most are maybe the business owners who are just starting out. They really need help with establishing a personal and business checking account and how to separate the two and what comes out of the business and how to pay themselves and those types of things, versus the business owner that is a few years into their business and they're trying to grow their team and they're thinking about taking on payroll expenses and those types of things, right? And maybe that's who you want to help instead. But what happens is you started really broad, you then narrowed it, You kept it there for a little while, helped a lot of people, gained some experience, and then leaned in a little bit more and continued to refine it more and more. The process of niching down is very similar to that. You will experience expansion and contraction over the years. But really what you want to do is continuously ask questions about your clients. Look for patterns that you might see, both good, bad, or indifferent. And sometimes when we're talking about niching down, we're talking about human beings. We're talking about people, right? And so to say that a quality or a trait is bad or good, I don't really love those terms. What I mean when I say that, I do not mean that that person is bad, that makes them a bad person or anything like that. I just mean that it's bad for you. It's wrong for you. It's not a good fit for who you want to be as a coach and how you want to hone your craft, okay? So that is what I mean by that. It's not about them. It's about the alignment, okay? I think it comes down to really hearing what the clients are saying or what they're writing in their prep work and that kind of thing, and looking for patterns as you start to work with people, okay? That's oftentimes how you're going to really refine your niche. So let's start first. There are 3 ways to discover your niche initially. Okay, this is not the final niche that you're going to end with, but this is where we want to start. Okay, so I'm going to give you 3 things to consider, and then I'm going to continue to dive deeper and deeper into the levels of your niche after this. So number 1, ask yourself, who do you naturally enjoy talking to? Who do you gravitate toward in a room of people? What about them makes that so? How are they carrying themselves? And what makes it so that you feel comfortable talking with them? What do you know that makes you feel confident when you're in a room full of these people? What kinds of conversations are you having with these folks regularly? And what kinds of conversations do you just love having? What's a topic that you find yourself leaning into when you hear a conversation happening about that thing? So you sort of say like, oh, just a second, I hear them talking about this. I want to go chime in really quickly, right? What are those things? One example that I have of this is my husband, Michael. Both of his parents were teachers growing up. So even though he is not a teacher and never was a teacher, did not go to school for that or anything like that, he feels natural talking to a room full of teachers. It's like he gets them. You know, he grew up with both parents as teachers. He understands the lingo and sort of just the way they, view the world a lot of the times. And so he feels really natural talking with teachers, even though that is not a profession that he's had. The second question that you can ask yourself initially to identify a niche is, what's a hobby or interest that I enjoy? And for me, it's fitness. Fitness has always been a part of my niche. Sometimes we've been more broad, and then obviously now we're more refined with that. I get what it's like to go to the gym every day, even on the days that I don't want to, and my clients feel the same way. I say that to them when I talk about our financial coaching sessions too, because I say, hey, I know there's days that I don't want to go to the gym. And when I go, I always feel so much better afterwards. And they get that feeling. And I say, your coaching sessions with me might feel similar. There might be some days where you're like, oh, I just don't feel up to this today, right? I promise you, every time you come, you're going to feel so much better. You're going to be so glad you did, right? So I know the lingo, I know the benefits, the way it makes me feel, and the struggles. I can relate to all of those things. Maybe yours is marathon running or building computers or home decorating. What is something you just truly enjoy? And then number 3, was there a specific life experience that was life-changing for you? Perhaps you experienced a divorce or a sudden job loss, right? What were some of the times in your own life where you experienced an aha moment? Maybe you had an epiphany and it was a pivotal moment in your life. Not to say that it was easy or enjoyable, but you grew through it. And maybe you like who you are now on the outside of that, right? On the outside of that situation, you like who you are better now than when you went into it, and you want to help people navigate that same transition. What was happening at that time of your life? And it doesn't necessarily have to be unique. I want you to know that. Other people can experience it too. Other financial coaches can experience it too. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to come at it from the same perspective that you do, that they're going to feel the same way about it as you do. And we're going to narrow that down so we can have 2 financial coaches, both helping fitness people. But the way I talk about it and the way this other coach talks about it could be different, and they're going to land differently. Okay? All of these point to something, that niching down starts with looking at your own lived experience. your own personality, your own traits, your own pleasures, and the things that you enjoy about life, okay? This is oftentimes the best place to start. It's relatable. You can speak to it really easily. It's not just here's how you do it, but here's how you might feel when you do this, which is really important. It allows you to connect on a deeper level. But of course, this is also why niching down oftentimes feels scary, because we may need to share parts of ourselves or parts of our lives, parts of our own story, and that can feel very vulnerable, right? It can feel risky. We have to embrace authenticity when we do that, and we can fear being judged. I totally understand that. If you fear being judged for this experience or this hobby of yours, let's say, I want you to imagine that your clients probably do too. And if they were to share a similar experience as you, they'll know when they go to your website and they see that you are owning it, that you're there to help them through it, they're going to realize that there's someone there who can help them, that someone gets it, that they don't have to be ashamed around you. They don't have to fear being judged because you're putting this part of your story out there, right? That can be so freeing for them. It's one of the reasons why they are more likely to reach out to you than if you're speaking to just some general like money change, right? Like, oh, we just want to help you budget better, right? Like it's not speaking to why they want to do that, okay? Now, I'm going to ask you to pick an initial focus based on one or multiple of the above three options that I just listed. Who you naturally enjoy talking to. Is there a particular interest or hobby you enjoy? Or is there a specific life experience you've either had temporarily or it's been a lifetime experience, right? And sometimes those things all go together, right? So if I love powerlifting, then who I also enjoy talking to is other powerlifters, right? And I've experienced a time in my life when I was overweight and didn't know how to take care of my body and I didn't know how to eat right. And now I do. And I know what that transformation was like and what it took to get through that. So all of these things can play together, or it could just be one particular area for you. And that is okay too. I want you to pick which one of those you can start with though. And yes, I am asking you to choose now. And yes, that probably feels like a total guess and like a leap of faith at this point. You may be looking for some clear formula that points to a very specific answer that you know with absolute certainty it is right, that there is a guarantee here that you're going to get this right now. Welcome to entrepreneurship. It's a lot of following your gut. It's a lot of learning to listen and trust your intuition. And it's a lot of like trusting the journey, okay? Remember from a prior episode, we talked about niching down that you can always change this. You can always expand it or refine it over time. All you're trying to do right now is move the ball down the field. Okay, this particular play right now, the decision you're making right now, this is not the game-winning touchdown. This is not the game-winning touchdown pass that you're throwing right now. This is the play where you're just moving down the field, moving that ball down the field so that you're closer to getting into scoring position. Okay, so yes, this probably feels like a guess, but that's okay. Trust the process. Okay, choose one of these things. These are a jumping off point for you. So again, I'm going to repeat it. Who do you naturally enjoy talking to? Is there a hobby or interest you enjoy, or is there a specific life experience that was life-changing for you? Okay? Pick one of those things. All right. Now, once you pick a focus or a jumping off point from one of the three concepts that we just mentioned, I want you to spend 5 to 10 minutes and I want you to do a massive brain dump. I want you to write down everything you know about the person who fits that initial description, okay? Do not edit yourself, just write. You can go ahead and hit pause on this episode if you want and come back. And then we're going to move on to the next step. But I'm going to give you some examples first. So if it's a particular profession, let's say it's people who are doctors, okay? What time do they get up? What are their shifts like? How long do they work? How might they feel when they get off of work? What do they see every day at work? And how does that affect their own beliefs or thoughts about the world or about people? What was their journey like to get to where they are? Medical school, maybe student loan debts possibly, right? Lots of studying, lots of reading, lots of research. How do they spend their time outside of work? And how does being a doctor impact their life outside of work? Another example is maybe women going through a divorce. What led to the separation? How do they feel about it? Is it a hostile separation or an amicable one? Do they have kids? Was it a first marriage? Or is it their second or third marriage that they're getting a divorce from? Did the potential client manage the money in that relationship, or was that part of money delegated to their spouse in the marriage? What kinds of decisions is this person facing right now because of their divorce? And how are they feeling about those decisions? Keep in mind, you are generalizing a bit. And not every single thing that you write down will be applicable to every person that you are looking to help. What you're looking for are for trends or patterns overall. One thing we say about personal trainers, for example, is that they likely didn't study exercise science in college. They went to college for something else, but fitness is actually their passion. And so they're a lot of times working full time and doing personal training on the side. They oftentimes have a lot of student loan debt, but for a degree that they're not using. And that is actually holding them back from leaving their full-time job to pursue personal training full-time. It acts as a bit of an anchor to our clients, like kind of holds them back in life, right? We speak to that and how that affects the way they feel about paying off their student loans, for example. But not every personal trainer that we help has student loans. Some even went to college to study kinesiology, right? A few of them did. But that's okay. We can say, that's amazing. This is one challenge or hurdle that a lot of other trainers have that you don't have, and we should celebrate that. This gives you a leg up. Let's own that. Let's be proud of that, right? Your situation is doable, right? Like we can conquer this. It's okay, right? So we can speak to it, and that's just simply one less thing that they're going to overcome, and they should feel good about that. So that doesn't mean that we don't talk about it. We just let them know that like not all of these characteristics are going to fit every single person, right? We're looking for patterns. If I go to someone's website and if I'm looking for a business coach, for example, let's say, then if they say like there's a whole page about who they help and what you're experiencing and that kind of thing, if 8 out of 10 of those things are resonating with me, it doesn't matter if the other 2 are, right? It doesn't have to be a perfect fit. I have to feel as if they get it though. They get the gist of it, right? Now, the next step after you have spent 5 to 10 minutes of just writing down, massive brain dump, everything you can think about for those people. And again, that will not be a complete list. You'll be able to add to that over time. You're going to get to know your ideal client over time, and it's actually going to get a lot more fun. But now I want you to look at the list of things that you wrote down. What does that list tell you about that person? Here's some things you can look for. But really the question you're asking is, now that I look at this, what does this tell me about them? Okay. Is there some philosophy on the world or on life that starts to form in your mind? Things like you have to work to make money, or no one's going to do it for you. These are things that maybe say something about the person and their life experiences, their fears or their desires, and you're trying to clue in on that a little bit, right? Like these sort of cultural or trends come from working in the same profession for 20 years, oftentimes, and surrounding yourself by the same people for 20 years, right? Like these types of thoughts or philosophies on life, right? This is so true if you think about any profession, right? That we sort of adopt like a groupthink mindset sometimes, right? And they don't even realize it, but we are able to see it. And so you're just looking for patterns there, right? But you want to ask yourself, does this tell me anything about their philosophy on money or their philosophy on life, okay? Or their philosophy on the world? The next one is their thoughts on money. Things like, I just can't seem to get ahead, or I make good money and I thought it would be easier by now, or I shouldn't have to budget every dollar when I'm making $250,000 a year, right? It could also tell you something about the pressures they feel to fit in or to live a certain lifestyle or something like that. So does this paint a picture of their thoughts on money, right? If they're surrounded by people taking 10-day all-inclusive vacations at a Four Seasons hotel or whatever the case may be a few times a year, then that is likely going to weigh on them. It's not to say that they're going to fall in line with that, but they might feel that pressure, right? And so you just want to be able to pay attention to some of these nuances. The other thing you want to look at when you're looking at the list is, are there any personality traits or qualities, maybe they're how they communicate, their demeanor, those types of things that really stand out to you as far as those all those words that you wrote down, all the descriptions that you wrote down. And then the last thing is their experiences. For example, a lot of our clients, like I was saying, went to college for something other than the thing that they're working in now, right? That is just a pattern that we see. So do you see anything about their experiences overall that are very similar besides just the experience that maybe you're trying to help them navigate? What else about that, right? So just something to think about there. And then based on all of those things, we can go even deeper into understanding our ideal client. And so here's some questions that I want you to come up with the answers for next. I want you to identify 3 to 5 desires of your ideal client. Do they desire a Disney vacation? Do they desire savings in their bank account and stability? Do they desire a new car, right? Our fitness professionals, our personal trainers, desire doing training full-time. That's what they want to do. I also want you to identify 3 to 5 challenges that they're facing right now. It doesn't have to be a financial challenge. I want to be very clear about that. It could be a time challenge. It could be that they feel overwhelmed all the time, right? Our personal training clients feel as if they don't have enough time in the day to grow their business more, to get it to a point where they can do it full time so they can leave their full-time job. Like it kind of feels like a which comes first, chicken or the egg thing, right? Time is always of the essence. A lot of our personal training clients are working full time. They train heavily. They're probably athletes themselves, and they do personal training. They feel almost as if they've got like 3 passions that are always kind of fighting against each other. And now money is another element of that. I also want you to identify 10 words that describe the personality traits of your ideal clients. One thing we like to do is when we identify the 10 words that describe our ideal clients, we make sure that when we are creating content for, let's say, social media or our website, that it feels similar to those descriptions, right? So our clients in the gym are very confident, right? They like the way they feel walking through a gym, or they feel proud of their body. They're very, prideful people. They're proud. They tend to feel as if this area of their life that, 95% of the world can't figure out, they're good at it, right? And that gives them an air of confidence about them. And so if we were to then, all of our social media would be meek, let's say, or very reserved or very passive, those two things don't fit, right? So when you describe your ideal client, then you're able to say, is my content matching that personality, right? Identify 3 to 5 fears that your ideal client has. Our ideal clients fear going broke. They fear not being able to help people. They fear being stuck in a job for the rest of their life and hating it, right? So really try to get to the heart of what do they fear, okay? Identify 3 to 5 limiting beliefs, myths, or misconceptions that your ideal client has about money. Maybe something like you always have to carry a balance on your credit card in order to maintain a good credit score. Or the man of the house manages the money. Or women spend too much. Or budgeting means you have to track or count every penny, right? How can you identify that they've got these limiting beliefs or these thought patterns that maybe aren't serving them well? And how can we poke holes in those things in our marketing, right? How can we speak directly to those things? Now, all of those things that I just listed, I promise will make for a much better and stronger marketing message than anything general you might be sharing right now. Begin using all of those things. The answers that you come up with for those prompts, begin using them in your marketing. Tell stories about yourself if you can relate to any of those things. Maybe you're not experiencing that same fear today, but if at one point you did, speak to that. Tell a story about that. Talk about it. If you have a client who's experiencing that and you've helped them work through it, tell that story, okay? For everything you come up with in your marketing, ask yourself how it can be more specific to your ideal client. Will it resonate with my ideal client? That is what I want you to ask yourself, okay? Is it bold enough? How can I add more boldness and more specificity to it, okay? Oftentimes what I will do, if this helps, is I will write something and then I will go back later and say, how can I be more bold with this message? Like, what parts of this seem bland or blah, or anybody could write this, or this message could go towards anybody, and there's really no way to know who this is for. I want it to be more specific than that, okay? And then one thing you can do once you know your niche is that you can refine it even more by performing market research. So let's say you want to help graphic designers and there's a Facebook group specifically for graphic designers. You can create a form, or you can simply go in the group and ask questions, or you could link to the form depending on what the group allows. And you can create a survey that asks them questions to gain even more insights into how they're feeling, thinking, what they're experiencing, what their desires are, and how they want to talk about money, the words they use, and that sort of thing, right? And then every 6 months, I want you to plan, especially at first, okay? If you are a newer coach, and I would say newer coach in the first 5 years of business, then every 6 months, I want you to plan a full day where you reflect on the meetings and the clients that you have been helping. So the meetings you've been holding and the clients you've been serving, I want you to reflect on those things from the prior 6 months. And I want you to ask yourself, who did I love meeting with? Who didn't I love meeting with? Why and why not, right? Are these still the characteristics of my ideal client, or am I sensing that they're shifting? Have I gained new awareness, right? That was absolutely how I gained awareness, was through experience. I didn't know all the things that I know now. I would meet with some people and I would be like, oh God, I'll give you guys an example. We help a lot of couples, and when a couple comes in that has a really high conflict communication style, sort of a very combative communication style where they're sort of like attacking each other verbally, and to be totally honest, my sister and brother-in-law, they've been married for, I don't know, probably 25 years now. He's been my brother-in-law since I was in middle school. I mean, they met when they were very young. They're still together to this day. I love them both dearly. This is their communication style, so I get it. Like, these couples love each other, and like the way they communicate is not something that I could ever handle myself personally, right? And for some reason, I just don't handle it well in a coaching session. I don't enjoy it. It makes me feel yucky. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to say and that kind of thing. And I could go learn how to do that better. I could go take some trainings, or I could get mentored by another coach who's really good at that. Instead, I've just sort of decided that that's not a skill that is important to me. I refer those couples out to skilled coaches who are better at handling that kind of dynamic. But you know what? I learned that through experience. I didn't even know that about myself, right? Until I started coaching couples, and I just realized it's not something I feel great at handling. And so you will do the same thing, and then you'll learn. You can either decide, is this a skill I need to lean into and I want to do that? Or is this something that now I know and I can ask some questions when I first talk with somebody, or I can look for some clues when I'm in those conversations, either some red flags or some characteristics, to know whether or not this is a couple that I can help and I feel equipped to do that and I feel confident that I can help them, or I'm going to refer them to a coach who would love to take this on. Like, this is their zone of genius. This is their area of excellence, right? And I have decided to go that route, but you may choose to lean into a little bit. But you do that by reflecting on this, right? You do that by every 6 months looking at the clients you have, the conversations you're having in sessions, and seeing how you feel about it. Who am I excited to meet with when I see them on my calendar? Ask yourself that question. When you look at your day, who gets you excited? What about them? Why is that? Is it the conversations you're having? Is it their energy? Is it their attitude? Is it the specific problem that they're facing? You just feel like it's your zone of genius and you can speak to it. What about that makes it so you love it? And then on this other side, who do I dread when I see it on my calendar? And I'm kind of like, oh, crud, right? And you're sort of like, oh, why is that? It's okay. This is just awareness we're trying to gain, right? Let's not judge that. That is the type of awareness we're seeking, all right? I hope this niching down episode works well for you. I know this will take time to work through this entire episode. Typically at this point, we get to a reflection question, but the reality is this whole episode is one massive exercise for you to complete. So what I want you to do is I want you to take the time to sit with all of these questions and do the work, okay? I want to hear about it. I am legit begging you to tell me what you come up with after doing this episode, all right? After doing these exercises. And it is okay if it doesn't feel done or perfect before you share it with me. I am not expecting that at all. I want you to share your rough draft version with me. I want you to tell me in the comments on YouTube, if you are listening on YouTube, how were you feeling before listening to this episode? Who did you think you were going to help? And now that you've listened to this episode and done the work to answer these questions for yourself, who do you want to help now? Does it feel more clear and specific for you, even if it's not quite perfect just yet? What did you discover about your niche that perhaps you didn't know about them before this episode? Maybe you had a niche, but you were able to refine it. Maybe you discovered your niche because of this episode. Maybe you're experiencing a total pivot because of this episode. And if you are listening to this episode on a podcast, I too want you to share your thoughts and takeaways with me. You can find me on Instagram at Financial Coach Academy. Please message me and start sharing this amazing content in your stories or posts and just tag me. I want to see what you are up to. Like I've said in previous episodes, when we talk about niching down, it makes me incredibly proud to see what you are up to as a financial coach and who you are serving. It makes me happy knowing that you are out there doing that work. So please tag me. It makes my whole day when I get to see it. I believe financial coaching is the best and most rewarding way to make a living. I truly love what I do, and I hope that I am helping you to truly love this work as well. If you are ready to learn how to become a profitable and successful financial coach, check us out at financialcoachacademy.com to learn more about our online courses, free trainings, and events designed specifically for you by me, a financial coach as well. As always, I love hearing from you. So if you have any questions for the podcast, submit them at financialcoachacademy.com/podcast. And please subscribe and leave us a review if you are loving this podcast. It would mean the world to me. I will see you next week. I am going to share the journey that I go through every year when I reflect on the year that is coming to a close, and I do the work to create a new vision, goals, and plan for the new year. I'm going to break down that process for you, and I'm also going to share what my reflection was and what my takeaways and what our vision is for the year, and I hope it is an amazing lesson for you. I will see you next week.